终究还是要去补习，对吗？所以很常觉得好像很矛盾啊，很矛盾，就是每次有那种劳资爆发口角的新闻啊，或者是什么一些社会影片啊，然后底下都会说什么台湾的老板很压榨啊，什么什么。可是你真的有些地方该批评的时候，哎，我觉得那个该批评的声音就不见了。就大人好像对自己的权益非常的在意，可是对于小孩子的权益好像就不怎么 care。反正小孩子像我小时候补习补到8、9点，每天都是偏头痛的回去，然后偏头痛的起来，我都觉得我就是快要精神耗弱了。但是没有人在意，因为我就只是个废物烂小孩而已，就是不上进的小孩。不会有人在意，不会有大人在意，他们只在意说，哦，啊我这样子没有人帮我顾小孩啊，我要怎么办？怎么样的？Wait, you're listening.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
You're
Listening
to Radio Lab.
Radio Lab.
From
WNYC.
See?
Yeah.
Wait, am I glowing right now?
You certainly are. Yeah.
Hey, this is Radio Lab. I'm Molly Webster. So I was a biomajor, and we had to take maybe one physics class, and then we never thought about it again. And this is often how it goes in the sciences. You've got biology, the environment, animals, our bodies, the kind of organic, messy physical stuff, that's on one side. And then you have physics, all the abstract stuff, waves, energy, invisible particles. That's all on the other side.
I know how to use these.
They very much feel like two different worlds.
Can I ask you a couple questions before we get started?
You can ask me so many questions. But for Narosha Murugan, they go hand in hand.
I'm Narosha Murugan, an applied biophysicist from Waterloo, Canada. And most biophysicists look at mostly bio. I'm on the other end who likes to be 50-50.
What I learned from talking to Narosha and what you're going to hear in our conversation today, it is definitely a leap into the unknown, but it starts with a very simple idea about how living things, bacteria, cactuses, humans, whatever, how they do what they do. And it's an idea that made me think about the kind of mark we leave on the world. So we're going to start with Narosha as a student.
I mean, I can tell you a very specific moment in grad school that
Tell me.
I was living in the dorms and I was making mashed potatoes and I burnt myself. And then, I don't know why I thought this, but I thought it was really exciting. Yeah, how quickly that information of me burning my hand went into my body for me to remove my hand. Like that signal had to go up my arm, things had to change and move all the way back down my arm for me to remove it.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the molecular interactions.
Norosha says she was standing there thinking about all the little molecules in her skin and nerves and spine, all these proteins bumping into each other, interacting and passing along a signal. Burn, ow, until it reached her spine. And then a signal goes back. More proteins bumping into each other, interacting, signaling, move your hand, back down her arm, all in a split second. And suddenly it just seemed impossible.
When we think about a protein, proteins have a very specific shape, and that shape determines their function. So when you think of a cell doing what it needs to do, on the surface of a cell, there are other proteins, which is what we call receptors. And those receptors have a shape to them. And for them to interact, there needs to be a physical interaction of that protein into the receptor.
Yeah, there's this shorthand that we use for talking, which is that a lock and a key go together, and that like makes things happen in the cell.
Correct.
So something is a shape and it fits into a hole.
It's as simple. That's the fundamental basis of biomolecular interactions. But thinking about all that for that one specific molecule to find that perfect receptor just seemed like it was too easy.
Really?
Yeah.
I like, wow, this is why you were a better bio student than I was. Because I was like, I don't know, there's a lock, there's a key. Like one of them is the lock shape, one of them is the key shape. The lock is just floating along, it finds it.
So that's the model that didn't sit well with me. So imagine you're one of those like janitors with like a big ring of keys. How do you find that right key for the right lock in that right amount of time to induce signaling? You got to go through all those keys. You got to try, iterate through random probability and get the right shape in the right space.
Yeah, and with also, if you think about like the interior of a cell, it's like there's thousands of other proteins, and there's trash, and there's the nucleus, and there's I don't know, endoplasmic reticulum. There's like all sorts of things inside the cell that are between the lock and the key, between the two shapes, like finding each other.
Correct. This is what I was like uncomfortable with, is think of that time and think of the probability of you finding your shape in 1,000th of a second.
Damn.
It's pretty fast.
The janitor took the ring of keys and just threw it at a lock, and somehow the right key on that ring gets into the lock, and like it makes it across the space, even though there's so much in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just like one interaction. And so if you kind of break it down that way, that's what I learned in school, things weren't adding up. There's something missing. There had to be something else to induce signaling inside of a cell. So my advanced immunology teacher in grad school, I, after class, went up to him and I was like, well, how does that lock and key model make sense? Think of the time and the probability. And I asked him that question and he said, I don't know, but this is how it works. I'm like, no, but how? Like, I'm that annoying grad student. But can you tell me a little bit more? Like, where does the time fit in? And he said, this is just the way it is. I don't know how it works. And that I don't know was enough for me to figure out maybe I can go find out that I don't know.
As Norosha kept puzzling this, she thought maybe there's something in physics, the world where particles are always zipping around really fast. Maybe there's something there that could help me out.
The gap that I was trying to fill is that how can the physical interactions occur so quickly? Why can't we have a thing, but through non-physical interactions? So the way that I kind of like picture it is maybe if you had a door with a tap card access versus an actual old school lock and key, you can open the door both ways. Either the proteins can do it, that will take a longer time to do the behavior, or like a wireless tap where you can just kind of put a card against a key receiver and there's a signal or a door opens. So, okay, what can be faster that cells can use to communicate? What is the fastest signal that we know? Light. It is the fastest modality that exists in our universe. And then you go out, or what I did was went out is to research to see if anyone else has asked those questions and how they test them.
Ooh. Okay.
And through my research, I found the original papers that showed that biology emits light.
Biology emits light.
Yeah.
What Nerosha stumbled into was a weird little corner of biology pioneered by this Russian biologist Alexander Gurevich. In the 1920s, he did a series of experiments on onion roots to understand how they grow. And I'm gonna be real with you, the original papers in Russian, it was kind of a crazily complicated experimental setup. But basically, in the process of doing these experiments, he made a discovery that seemed to suggest that the onion cells inside the roots were making and releasing their own light.
It was the very first instance that someone thought, hey, biology emits light. That was the first experiment. What we now know is every cell in your body does give off light.
Every cell,
Every cell.
any kind, heart cell, liver cell,
Brain cell,
cheek cell,
skin cell, liver,
tongue cell.
everything. And the how kind of comes down to the part of the cell that's actually giving off light, which is involved with metabolism. So if anything can metabolize, plants give off light, shrimp give off light. Literally everything that is alive emits light.
So I'm glowing right now.
You sure are.
You're glowing right now.
Absolutely.
Why can't I see it?
Because that's a good question. So
Finally, we get to one.
no, that's fantastic. We physically can't see it. It's because the intensity of light is so weak, and it come and go through all this tissue to come outside so that we could see it. And so, if you take a cell in a dish, any cell in a dish, it will give off light. We now know very confidently that it's wavelength specific.
What does that mean?
Different rates of metabolism will induce different wavelengths of light, so in different colors.
So not only am I emitting light, or cells are emitting light, they could be emitting light of different color.
Correct.
Wait a second. So when my friends try and drag me down to get my aura red, is that this?
So the intensity of light is definitely not as bright as some of the aura pictographs that you might see.
Okay.
For us to detect it, we have to have an ultra dark room and use these high sensitive detectors to even detect one photon.
Okay, so if I'm a cell and I'm giving off light, and maybe we have to pick a specific cell, I don't know. How does that actually work?
So let's dig into that a little bit. We know that light gets emitted from cells. The question now is, where exactly is it coming from? That's the question that I get all the time. What's the mechanism? My hypothesis is that most of it kind of comes down to the mitochondria.
So you probably know this. One of the structures inside the cell is the mitochondria. It looks like a microscopic kidney bean with tiny little folds inside of it. And it is often called the powerhouse of the cell. Hey, internet. It creates all of the energy that makes us run. So that's neurons firing, muscles contracting, bodies working. It all comes from the mitochondria. And the way that works is molecules will pass electrons back and forth to each other all along the inner folds. And that process of passing releases energy.
So in that process, the electron goes from a high energy all the way down to a low energy state.
Is like a high energy electron like a kid with a lot of sugar, and then like a low energy electron is like when they come down off the sugar?
That's one way to look at it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So during that hop, it releases energy, which is light.
Dad, this part is like the juicy part. So you're saying that, I don't know, we're giving off life because we're doing fun things with our electrons.
Because we're alive.
There are a number of different ideas about where light could be coming from inside the cell. It could be these electrons, it could be a buildup and release of charged particles, it could be something having to do with fatty acids, it could be a combination of things. For Nerosha, she's finding that when she interrupts that electron chain, the light changes.
If the electron doesn't make it, there should be no light, right? That's the
Mhm.
logic. And that's what we're starting to find.
Do you have a sense of how many photons a cell is emitting at any moment?
Yes. When we've measured it, so if you take a dish of brain cells from a rat, if it's just at rest, just doing nothing really, you probably get around 100 photons a second. When you add
How a dish of brain cells, like how many brain cells is that?
about a million,
So so say in brain cells
Yep.
emitting 100 photons a second as a group.
as a group, yeah.
Okay.
And then when you activate them, we get signals anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 photons a second.
Okay. Okay, wait. I got really lost in an image of like the mitochondria just releasing like fireworks all the time. Like I was like, oh, these little cells are popping off. It's like after a baseball game on the 4th of July.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
And is it that light that I might potentially be seeing if I had an amazingly dark space?
That's exactly it. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Why did I not learn about this?
that's an excellent question. That's something that I would like to change. I think there's a lot of resistance to trying to understand this. About like 10 years ago, when I first started this stuff, I had my first backlash when I presented this as a graduate student at a conference.
Oh,
It was awful.
wait, what happened?
I presented our first, because I was really excited about this, so I wanted to incorporate this into my graduate thesis. And oh boy, did I get it. Oh, this is noise. This is not science. You're going to jeopardize your career. Stop this. Go back into cell biology.
I wonder if some of it is like people have been like, nah, it's bullshit. Because it's like we've already talked about auras. I can imagine like a lot of folks being like, no, this isn't legit.
I think there's a lot of that, but within the last decade, it's not just me. There's several other researchers across the globe. So now there's an acceptance of, okay, we'll believe it. There's light coming off of biology. Now the resistance is, okay, we accept that there's light coming off, but it's noise. It's not meaningful light that's used in biology. So what I'm looking into now is, okay, light's being generated from the mitochondria. Does that light carry some form of information that the cell can use to do what it needs to do?
Is it purposeful and then being utilized by the body?
Yeah. So I was thinking, okay, we're sitting in a bath of light that's coming from this big ball of fire, which we call the sun. Does this light have any impact on our physiology? It's like, okay, before I understand internal light, what does external light do?
I see. You were just like, how are we interacting with external light? Does any of that apply
To the internal
light we're making?
The light's the same. The photon is the same. For example, there are these proteins called opsins in your eyes that help convert different wavelengths of light that help regulate circadian rhythms.
I guess that makes sense to me because the eyeball is a light
sensing organ,
and so it senses light. But that's where my light interaction like shuts down. And sounds like you're saying there's more light interactions happening.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to any literature, the first thing that will come up is vitamin D synthesis. Is that, okay, the sun hits your skin and your skin processes vitamin D, and that does a lot of things for metabolism.
So you're saying like my skin is working with the sun?
Absolutely.
So like sun hits me,
correct?
And then what does my body do?
The vitamin D precursors absorb a certain wavelength from the sun.
They're absorbing wavelengths.
There's wavelength, yeah. There's information in that light, and they convert shape. That shape is what we can absorb.
Oh my God, I never thought of us as so plant-like.
Yeah, we are essentially like energetic converters, converting sunlight into energy for our life.
Wait, is that the only direct interaction I have with the wavelengths from the sun
Um,
that I'm like actively converting?
no, we have light receptors in our brain.
Seems so dark in there.
Exactly. Our pigment cells, like, the melanocytes, the hemoglobin that carries the oxygen within your red blood cell absorbs light.
Okay.
There are a lot more, and we're starting to see more and more as people start to look at interactions with light. We can see that molecules have inherent abilities to absorb light.
We as creatures have evolved with the sun for so long that there are many, many elements of our cells that are able to absorb light. And so now the question is, if that's the case, could the light coming from inside of our cells also be absorbed? Could it be used purposefully to trigger some processes in us?
Yeah, that's a good question, and we don't know. My hypothesis is that the cell generating light is purposeful, but we don't have the evidence to strongly say yes or no.
Interesting. Like, so we really are in a lot of like theoretical ideas. Like, once we get beyond the revelation, which will be a revelation to a lot of people, that biological material, cells, me, you, are emitting light, then a lot of the questions that come after that of like how, why, when,
What does it mean?
what does it mean? That's TBD.
Those are all next steps. So I think, yeah, there's some like a lot more questions to be asked.
Coming up, Narosha tries to find out what the light inside our bodies might be doing. Like, what are those little photons up to? The cellular fireworks continue after the break.
I'm Lulu, and this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Picture it. You're at the salon getting a new haircut. You look in the mirror and begin to think about some of your latest mess ups, some breakups, some things you did wrong, and the words slip out of your mouth. You begin sharing your problems with your hairdresser, and they listen. But is that where you should be bringing your problems? Should they have to be the ones to help you fix it? No. They went to school to make you look as dapper as possible beneath the strings of dead keratinized cells known as your hair. If you are looking for help with anxiety, depression, relationships, communication, or other clinical issues, do the hairdressers in your life a favor and get guidance from a licensed therapist, someone trained in the art of helping you find you. BetterHelp provides access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise online at the push of a button. Find your mental fit at betterhelp.com. Go to betterhelp.com/radiolab to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/radiolab. And listen to your hairdresser for a change. Heyo, Lulu here. As you have likely heard, this summer the federal government defunded public media in America. Here at WNYC, that has resulted in a loss of $3 million each year that we cannot count on anymore. But while we may have been defunded, we have not been defeated, and that is where you, just maybe you, come in. If you have never supported Radiolab before, consider tossing a few bucks each month our way. The best way to do that is to join our membership program, The Lab. Go online, click a few buttons, and then for $7 a month, boom, you are supporting our team. And as a thank you this month, we will mail you a brand new, beautifully designed jumbo tote bag, one of those ones that can fit like all your beach stuff and your big grocery hauls. It will not fit, however, our gratitude. If the mission of public radio means something to you, if Radiolab means something to you, your support right now means more than ever. Please go on over to members.radiolab.org and check out what it takes to become a member. Design of the gorgeous tote bag, which has a sort of aquatic theme because of all the aquatic stories that we randomly did this year. One more time, members.radiolab.org. Check it out. Thank you so much for listening and standing with us when we need you the most.
Hey, I'm Molly Webster. We are back. We're stepping into a world of questions. And one of the first ones Narosha wants to tackle is how what seems like a cellular firefighter might actually be more like a laser or something.
I mean, and then the next question, if this light that's coming off of these mitochondria,
Uh-huh.
if it's purposeful, how is it getting from point A to point B in the cell?
Like if there's a purpose to the light and it's a
Directed.
and it's directed, it's a sentinel of information. Like, well, I don't know, isn't it a photon? Don't they just flow through things when it just
But
like
photons scatter, right?
Okay.
So like photons, when it gets released, it's not like I'm going this direction. It'll be scattered.
I'm not going north. I'm just an explosion
Yes,
of photons.
of photons. And if we are going to say that it's purposeful, it needs to be guided into a destination.
So then your question is, how does it get
What
from
is
A
it-
to B without going off course in a photon-like manner?
Correct. And like, what is the biology that would support that? And there is some evidence suggesting that maybe the cytoskeleton is a means to guide photons.
What's that?
Cytoskeleton,
Yeah.
it's the skeleton, the scaffolding of the cell.
Okay.
It's specifically made up of various proteins, and the one of our interest within this scaffold is called microtubules that form in a long rod-like structure. They're the ones that help create that shape of the cell.
So every cell is filled with individual little tubules
Little
that are
rods.
that are help giving it its shape, little rods. And your question was, do those things suck up some of the light?
Correct, because if you look at images of a cell, you can actually see mitochondria really, really close to these cytoskeletal rods, and they get moved along the cytoskeleton like little train tracks to physically move within cells.
Oh, mitochondria themselves will attach onto these microtubules and move around.
Yes, I mean,
Oh.
and that's how things move within the cell. It's not just like random blobs floating around.
I don't know. I mean, it sounded like everything was floating. There's a little tram system
That's exact-
inside the cell.
Yeah.
That's so cute. And like things hop on and off. Okay.
That's exactly. They're called kinesins, but
I'm gonna stick with tram.
sure. So, you know, if the mitochondria are in close proximity to these railway tracks or these microtubules, the light that's being emitted could be absorbed by that microtubule and be propagated down that tract, like a fiber optic cable.
Huh.
And so what we're testing right now is a series of experiments to see if the microtubule is that biological fiber optic cable.
Okay, but do you have any proof thus far that that light is not just being cast off like fireworks into the cellular night, that it is actually being moved from an A to a B?
We are working on that currently right now,
Hmm.
but we do have strong evidence to show that the light that's being generated from neural cells, your brain cells, they are not random, that they are tied to purposeful activity of those neurons.
So when there's activity in the brain, there's light in the brain.
That's correct.
I mean, do you have any hypotheses of like what information light might be carrying inside the brain?
Well, it's the same. It's the same kind of question. What kind of information does electricity carry?
I don't know, Narosha. I just asked the questions. I'm not.
No. But the information in this case is that the fact that, you know, maybe the wavelength, the oscillations of these light, the fact that they could carry biological information itself would be meaningful, because if you look into your brain, between your two brain cells, or, you know, things that carry information in from one part of your brain to the other, we call that the white matter or the axons. The white matter we're starting to see can carry photons. So maybe each of those bundles of nerves act like a fiber optic cable. And the same fiber optic cable that we see in telecommunication, they carry pulses of light that, you know, that we use to carry information. Why can't our brain do that?
And this could be like memories. Is it like signals?
A thought. Why can't a thought be transported in the form of light? And it kind of really thinking far ahead. Are these photons involved in trying to help us understand consciousness?
Oh. There's honestly so much about this world of light inside the body that we some of the researchers describe this field is risky. Like, it could all add up to nothing. But if they're right, it could change everything, or at least a lot of things. For Nerosha, even if she doesn't know what the purpose of the light is in the body, like even if there isn't one, it might have a purpose for us outside the body.
What myself and a few other people are doing is the photons are there.
Mm-hmm.
Can we use it to discriminate between things? If they're at the very least tied to metabolism, are they photonic biomarkers?
Like, can I say, I know that's a heart. I know that's a tumor.
Exactly.
I know that's a kidney.
That's it. At the very least, can we do that? And so what I'm trying to do is use that for cancer. So for cancer use, we know that cancer have dysfunctional mitochondria or non-normal.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, can you imagine if when at the very beginning inception, we can pick up that early change as soon as they happen, as soon as they're different from their healthy counterparts. If we can pick up that using photons, that means we can pick up cancer as early as the inception point. We don't need to have an accumulation of molecules and mutations. We don't have to wait that long.
Yeah, you need like a whole tumor.
Yeah, you need a sizable mass, basically. So,
to say, oh, hey, your body's growing cancer.
right.
I guess the question then is there a significant difference between the photon release in cancer cells versus other cells?
Yes, and we've shown that and we've published that. They have two different light signatures.
So with the light coming off cancer, you guys are actually diagnosing cancer earlier?
Yes. With confidence, I can say this. We've published papers on this now.
Mm.
So we can tell whether there is cancer within an animal as early as that we've injected it. So in these experiments, we'll take a rat and we have injected underneath its skin melanoma. And on day one after injection, we did this in a double-blind way where a grad student has come with detectors to look at animals that were injected versus not injected. You can tell within day one that there's cancer there.
Wow. So even if the light was not biologically purposeful, you're thinking maybe it could still be diagnostically useful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like basically we've walked through, I'm just going to make you say it again, but you've like walked through brain cells that let out photons, tumor cells that let out photons, normal body cells that let out photons. You're saying everybody, every cell that you got is letting off photons.
Absolutely. And there was a paper that was published that showed that you can tell when an animal is alive and dead just by looking at their photon signatures.
Oh my God, this is the question I want to ask you.
Yeah.
When does the light start? And then does it truly go away?
Yeah. So in that paper, the initial study was to just look at these different kinds of detectors when an animal is alive and dead. And the photon signatures obviously dissipate when the animal dies. What that study didn't look at, which you alluded to, is when in that time scale does this signature end? And that would be really cool. When does the glow stop when you're dead? For example, in like hospice care, people report this death flash.
What's that?
I originally heard about this when I went to a consciousness conference, and there was this cardiothoracic surgeon. He would say that he's seen it, or his staff in the OR has seen this like very sudden flash of light, and I'm like, you have like OR lights everywhere. Like how? That's where I initially heard it, and I like looked into it a little bit, and there's hospice nurses that have anecdotally mentioned this.
Like a surgeon's just saying, just for the purpose of surgery where we stop a heart and start a heart, there's like an electric explosion of light?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. These are reports. Are there any experimental evidence? I'm not sure. They're anesthesiologists.
Why would there be a big explosion of light you could suddenly see?
I don't have the scientific evidence for this, but
you clearly, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know how to solve that at all.
Well, when things die, there's a sudden release of these electrons. They're not being propagated into certain proteins, right? These electrons have nowhere to go. And so when you have high energy photons dissipating, releases light. So that's my hypothesis. When the system, and that goes back to like physics. Like, no organization from biology that energy has to go somewhere.
The energy has to go somewhere, so it just is released. It is the
released.
fireworks that I have been talking about.
I think so. I think biology, these biomolecules, the membrane, all of these stuff inside of cells help organize that energy into meaningful process. So that's why I was saying way back when our beginning of our conversation is when we reframe our understanding of cells being these energetic bodies, I think the physical dimension makes a lot more sense.
Do we have any idea of when, like, the light first turns on?
Well, there's a really cool video that I can send to you where someone showed us the
曾经真的以为人生就这样了，平静的心拒绝再有浪潮，斩了千次的情丝也断不了，百转牵着它将我围绕。有人问我你究竟是哪里好，这么多年我还忘不了。春风再美也比不上你的笑，没见过你的人不会明了。是闺蜜的心跳也好，是你牵续的音乐也好，然而这一切已不再重要。如果你能够重回我怀抱，是命运的安排也好，是你存心的捉弄也好，然而这一切已不再重要。我愿意随你到天涯海角。虽然岁月总是匆匆的催人老，虽然情爱总是让人烦恼，虽然未来如何不能知道，现在说再见会不会太早？有人问我你究竟是哪里好，这么多年我还忘不了。春风再美也比不上你的笑，没见过你的人不会明了。是闺蜜的心跳也好，是你牵续的音乐也好，然而这一切已不再重要。如果你能够重回我怀抱，是命运的安排也好，是你存心的捉弄也好，然而这一切已不再重要。我愿意随你到天涯海角。虽然岁月总是匆匆的催人老，虽然情爱总是让人烦恼，虽然未来如何不能知道，现在说再来不会太早。虽然未来如何不能知道，现在说再见会不会太早？
心中满是伤痕，你说你犯了不该犯的错，心中满是悔恨。你说你尝尽生活的苦，找不到可以相信的人。你说你感到万分沮丧，甚至开始怀疑人生。早知道伤心总是难免的，你又何苦一往情深？因为爱情总是舍难分，何必在意那一点点温存？要知道伤心总是难免的，在每一个梦醒时分，有些事情 现在不必问，有些人你永远不必等。爱了不该爱的人，你的心中满是伤痕。你说你犯了不该犯的错，心中满是悔恨。你说你尝尽了生活的苦，找不到可以相信的人。你说你感到万分沮丧，甚至开始怀疑人生。早知道伤心总是难免的，你又何苦一往情深？因为爱情总是难舍难分，何必在意那一点点温存？要知道伤心总是难免的，在每一个梦醒时分。有些事情你现在不必问，有些人你永远不必等。早知道伤心总是难免的，你又何苦一往情深？因为爱情总是难舍难分，何必在意那一点点温存？要知道伤心总是难免的，在每一个梦醒时分。有些事情你现在不必问，有些人你永远不必等。
攀登高峰望故乡，黄沙万里长。何处传来驼铃声，声声叫心坎。盼望踏上思念路。
这个火柴可以让你看见自己的梦，就是9楼的钥匙。
那童年的围墙，早就什么也能不想。啤酒不再以为长大，表情需要更多的包装。那句话是否在心里筑起一道墙？那句话是否也治愈了伤？而话语四季轮回，披上不同的面纱，变成唯一解答。时间在风化每段记忆，慢慢的创化每段秘密，乱过时化在脑里，形成另一个你。带来的被带走的，谁能够完整留着？与时针翻阅。
う一度桜かどんなに美しいか聞かせて。
要好好告别吗？那些没能说出的话，背影有冷漠的作答，关于未来可能的猜想，那句话是否在心里筑起一道墙？那句话是否也坠了伤？而话语四季轮回，披上不同的面纱，变成唯一解答。时间在风化每段记忆，慢慢的重化每段秘密，轮廓是画在哪里，形成另一个你。带来的被带走的，谁能够完整留着？于是真翻阅着生命，才明白那模糊的曾经。
我答案就是这样吗？
白雪公主，大战7个小矮人。
等一下，你妈是不是挑错本啊？
哦，不是，我挑的。
你挑的？
对啊。
那你妈在结账的时候没有检查一下吗？
谁会检查童话故事书啊？
这个名字很适合拿来检查吧？
不是，他就是直接被我买回家了。我妈在念的时候很奇怪哦，她在念的时候会有点心不在焉的。
废话，这本书的内容也太难让你专心了吧？
念到一半的时候，会突然回房间，然后锁门，然后关灯，放音乐。
妈妈应该是想睡觉了吧？
对，
想睡觉了。
应该是想睡觉。
应该想睡觉。
没错。
不过你可不可以以后就挑一些正常的童话来看呢？
哦，有啦，我后来都会看正常。
哦，那就好。
哎，不过小时候看童话故事书，应该都很想成为里面的角色吧？
确实啊，像我小时候啊，就很想成为
包青天。
谁呀？
你
为什么是包青天啊？他也不是童话人物嘛。
就很适合啊。
哪里适合啊？说说看。
肤色。
等下下台就捶一拳。
不可能。
我告诉你，就算我适合，我也没有要当包青天。
为什么？
我想当的是王子。
那我是要当獒犬。
不是爸爸。童话世界里面的白马王子。
哪个白马王子会这样子啊？
你管我啊！我就想帅一下，不行哦。
可是你为什么会想要当王子这么坏的角色？
他哪里坏？他可是救了一堆公主的性命呢。听起来好像真的蛮渣的。
你看吧，哎，我没有想到你从小就想当渣男。
谁想当渣男啊？不小心当成的。谁是渣男啊？谁是渣男？
爆料了。
我们也要当渣男。好啊，不然你想想看啊，你想成为什么样的角色啊？
我呢，当然是最想成为童话故事里面的白马喽。
白马？白马？为什么是马？马是拿来给王子骑的吧？
哎呦，公主也是啊。
不要乱讲话了，白痴哦！你讲什么东西啊？我就选一个人类的角色啊。
哦，人类的话，那当然就是继母喽。
继母？你是 说《灰姑娘》里面那个坏继母吗？
哎，他一点都不坏。
哪里不坏？
他身为一家之主，要想很多事情哎。
什么事？
像是灰姑娘睡哪里啊？
地下室啊。
家事要给谁做啊？
灰姑娘啊。
还有最重要的是，他要想要怎么样把灰姑娘赶出家门。
讲出来了，你自己都把最坏的部分讲出来，还说她不坏啊？
没有，我跟你讲，因为她会勾引她老公。
哪来的八卦？谁会勾引她老公？
灰姑娘会勾引她老公。
灰姑娘勾引她老公，继母的老公。继母的老公不就是灰姑娘她爸爸吗？
对。
请问一下，你看的版本是？
灰姑娘与她的鬼父。
啊，就知道啊，没有这个版本，正常的版本就叫灰姑娘，而且她爸已经过世了。
哦，有啊，我后来有看那个版本。
那就讲这个版本就好了。
可是那个版本超无聊的哎。
你那个版本确实比较有趣的，但是灰姑娘才是真正的童话。
哦，你都几岁了，还觉得童话是真的？
我没有觉得它是真的啊，我是说真的童话，正常的童话就叫灰姑娘。
好，那我陪你演，那可以了哈。
没有想要演。
灰姑娘。
谁啦？
给我过来。
你谁啦？
林州嘛。
继母啊，林州嘛，继母会讲台语哦。
给我过来，顶嘴是不是啊？
好啦，怎么了妈？
我跟你讲啊，跟你两个姐姐去参加舞会，你哦，这个好好的待在家里。
不是妈，你喉咙都这样，就不要再去喝酒了吧。很沙哑。
讲的话，观众根本不会发现。
最好是啊，超级沙哑的好不好？就是因为前姐跑去唱歌了嘛。
你害我的哎。
好妈，不是，为什么我不能去？我也想去啊。
你还敢问我为什么啊？不要笑，没有笑点。
你自己听听看，你的喉咙有多沙哑，还要去舞会？王子。不是妈，为什么我不能去？我也要去。
你这个态度我很不喜欢。
我要去。
你还要问我为什么啊？
不要那么大声。为什么我不能去？
要跟我应句应景。你还敢问我为什么啊？
为什么？
这样子哈，我才可以请那个仙子把你打扮得漂漂亮亮，把你送到舞会现场去啊。
什么？原来这是继母帮我准备的吗？
这样哦，你就是全场最漂亮的公主，王子哦就会爱上你了。
继母人也太好了吧？怎么可能啊？
有可能。
不可能。
这么喜欢继母啊？
还没有嘞，正常的童话才不是这样，为什么要改编啊？而且讲认真的，谁会喜欢继母这种坏角色啊？
好，那不然我第二个喜欢的角色你一定也喜欢。
还有啊？
我跟你讲，我们1、2、3一起讲出来。
谁知道你喜欢什么？
来喽，1、2、3，白雪啊，白雪。
巫婆啊！既然是巫婆，我怎么可能会知道啊？
白雪在手上有你和7个小矮人大战的影片。
正常的版本就好了。
哦，
正常的版本。
白雪啊，白雪，我现在手上有这颗毒苹果，你要吃吗？
你讲出来了欸，你都说是毒苹果了，谁会吃啊？
我刚刚有讲毒苹果3个字。
毒苹果3个字都出来了。
哎呀，我真是个小笨蛋。
不要装可爱，恶心死了！这个声音配小可爱有够恶心。好，对不起巫婆，对不起。
白雪，你一定要吃下这颗苹果。
为什么？
这样你就会陷入昏迷，我就可以请那个王子来亲吻你，你就会过着从此幸福快乐的日子。
哇，听起来也太幸福了吧！好，我吃。怎么可能啊？怎么可能这么好啊？这童话就不是这样，为什么一直乱改编？再来，你到底为什么都是喜欢一些反派角色？
因为我就是最可爱又迷人的反派角色。
武藏啊！
小次郎，喵，好讨厌的感觉。
火箭队不需要这样的表演。
那你干嘛学？
配合你啊！因为跟你骂你太多次了，心愧疚。
你也知道。
为什么要讲火箭队啊？
我跟你说，我第3个最喜欢的就是武藏。
武藏？为什么变武藏？武藏不是童话人物吧？
哎，第4个是苗可丽。
苗可丽，苗可丽啊！8点档的坏女人都出现了。
她一点都不坏。
她哪里不坏啊？
哎，她只是每一句话后面都会加力气而已。
有够没礼貌的吧？
没力气了。
不要学她了，学她声音很像。
学力气了。
进入角色是不是？
干你死啊！
干嘛呢？
爱你死啊！
干嘛呢？
爱你死啊！
干嘛呢？
干嘛你死怎么？
靠腰，白痴打太多下了吧？趁机报仇啊！走心了是不是啊？
我不想当表可丽了，
放弃了吗？太容易了吧？
我看我还是回去当白马好了。
说你不要当那个啊！
谢谢大家。
愚人联手鲍罗沃克一起笑傲江湖，全新喜剧专场《人在江湖不在家》，购票请上 OpenTix。
肚子好痛，终于找到厕所了。肚子好痛啊！终于找到厕所了。终于找到厕所了。哎，等一下，我也要上。OK，等我上来。我先来的。主啊，这种事情才不是什么谁先来后到的问题啊。就是嘛，上厕所就是谁先到谁先上啊。拜托让我先上，我好急啊！我比你更急啊！我很急啊！我现在肚子里面就像是有全力冲刺的土拨鼠，已经要探出头来了。那算什么？我身体内有恐怖分子跟警察在交战，我要攻坚成功了。那我的肚子就像是木马屠城记，已经要攻破城门了。我叫何荣，那我的。好了，你在干嘛？总之你去找别间啊。不行啊，方圆100里只有这间厕所而已啊，我撑不到那个时候。我也撑不到啊。拜托，真的拜托让我先上。我下午3点有个很重要的面试，不能迟到啊。我下午也是3点的面试。你是面试哪一间？苦口公司的业务职缺，只录取1名。原来是面试的前哨战啊！等一下。我们要在这个地方一决胜负。这样好了，我赶快上换你，然后我们一起去面试。你以为我在想什么吗？你只要在里面啊，等到我在外面退席，就少一个竞争对手了。我才不会这么做，那就让我先啊！我不要，我也不要，不要！哎呀，还好吧。好机会！不准动！把手举起来。你想干嘛？举汪东的话，我一拳捶下去啊！不要乱来啊！要不要让我先？我不要。告诉你啊，我小时候的梦想可是成为一名拳击手啊！我知道了，让你先。算你识相，走开！不准动！先出石头，再刀，石头。等一下！我知道错了，你先上吧。我不会上当，石头。你知道你这一拳捶下去有后果吗？后果就是我去面试，你去买裤子。错。后果就是你一拳捶下去，我就无所畏惧了。你觉得我不会跟你同归于尽吗？你想想看，当初美国跟苏联为什么会冷战那么久？没错，我们现在已经陷入了恐怖平衡。厕所就在前面，但是我们2个谁都不能上。为什么会变成这样？可恶！因为我们谁都不想引爆体内的核弹，核射炸弹，炸死！你叫什么名字？感谢，我叫阿亮。如果不是在这种场合的话，我们或许可以成为不错的朋友。或许吧。也好了，不求同年同月同日生，但愿同年同月同时。不要放弃啊！再这样下去不是办法。你先上吧。我不想靠这种方式来赢得面试。我相信你也是一样。跟前，快去吧，趁我后悔之前。那你要答应我，你一定要撑下去，在我回来之前。知道玩手机吗？手机别拿快一点啊！肚子好痛，终于找到了。 现在里面有人，而且下一个轮到我。拜托，我肚子好痛，让我先上，我肚子更痛。我就像体内有一把刀在插我的肚子。你那算什么？我是真的有一把刀在插我的肚子。这个是被捅了一刀啊。没事吧？我说没事是骗人的。来这里干嘛？去医院啊？会想上厕所啊？重要。我帮你叫救护车。不行，医院离这里太远，我撑不到那时候。就算撑不到也没差了。什么没差？你想想看，如果我在救护车上忍不住了，在那个密闭的小空间里，他们还愿意救我。新鲜的氧气罩泡在我的脸上，当然愿意啊！不要小看台湾医疗的专业，也许说的对，但是会上新闻吧？我怎么面对我的家人、我的朋友、我的同事？渗入，一名男子在救护车上解放自我。不要小看台湾媒体的嗜血啊！但是性命重要啊！人的性命没有那么脆弱，现在比起前面，后面更紧迫。这个说法很奇怪，是可以让我先上吗？可是我这血快要，你知道吗？人在失血过多的时候，注意力会变得涣散。现在唯一支撑我的只剩尊严。我知道。就让你先了，大安大德，过齿难忘。喂，你叫什么名字？耿先，我叫董轩。如果不是在这个场合的话，我或许可以成为不错的朋友吧。怎么你也说这句话？可是你是发生什么事了？为什么会这样啊？我喝了早餐店的奶茶。我是问你为什么想拉肚子？我是问你为什么被捅了一刀？那杯奶茶是别人的，我是同一个。同一件事情啊！你只是因为偷喝别人的奶茶就被捅了一刀。少事没有。好痛！伤口没事吧？我想要拉肚子啊，肠胃痛。不行，我快撑不下去了。再等一下，里面的人快上门了，我的嗓口快撑不下去了。这是伤口啊，好容易混淆哦。哪一个？现在哪里没痛？我下反而下来，哪一个？是哪边好？更先，能不能把冷气关小一点？这里是室外，没事吧？不错，这样凉凉的，好舒服。轩，醒了，快睡着啊！我刚刚怎么了？差点就失去意识了。怎么了？看起来。更先，我突然觉得神清气爽，活力源源不绝，回光返照啊！哪里好了？快好了！有人快升天了，我快破关了啦！不要再玩手机了。谢谢，我知道了。在跟谁说？这不是厕所，住手！好痛！我刚刚又怎么了？连幻觉都出现了，我还是叫救护车。不行，我还撑得下去啊！生命重要，生命诚可贵，爱情价更高。对酒当歌，人生几何？500人。快一点啊！怎么又有人了？扯才对。你看得到我？不是在上厕所吗？董轩先生的时间到，我是来带他去参加7个审判。大家好吗？又怎么了？阴差来了！谁啊？小心，这家伙很危险。为什么要阻挠我？阁下难道是侧臣吗？是。让开，生死有命。不，我让他平安的上完厕所，再去医院接受治疗。为什么不直接去医院接受治疗？这个问题我也想问。
成为一名拳击手。阿亮，这什么力量啊？跟前，你刚刚做了什么？什么都还没做。尽量，再来一次。全部放弃！为什么要这么袒护他？对你们有什么好处？总不能见现实。我也不知道为什么。虽然他通过的奶茶，但我总觉得不能抛下他不管，行为罪恶感。罪恶感没有啦，没那么严重的，不会人。阿亮，不准再无视我了！可恶，看来完全打不过他，只能放弃了吗？不行，不能放弃。我阿亮的字典里面。这2个字，阿亮，还有一个办法，什么？就是让他带走董轩，这就是放弃。带走董轩之前，先带走我们 Over my 66。我说的没错，不要小看人类。好，这可是你们自找的，就不要怪我手下不留情。令人敬佩的勇气。如果不是在这个场合的话，或许我可以成为不错的朋友。没想到这句话一天可以听到3次。打个电话吧，叫救护车。救护车来的时候，董轩先生应该差不多上完了吧？没什么，不过是被阎罗王臭骂一顿而已。你不要再你了，我也是有名字的，听清楚了，在下叫做没救护车吗？我们这里有人受了重伤，肚子被捅了一刀，还有意识，现在在拉屎。对不起，有阻止过的。你刚刚说？算了，没事。那我们要怎么样才能报答你呢？想报答我的话，就多做些好事，成为我的贵人。7个审判可是很严格的。我答应你，我再也不会乱丢垃圾了。先不要乱捅了，不是我捅的啦，今天见面了，你不要这样子。你没事吧？没事，这点小伤死不了了，还你。刚才已经帮你叫救护车了，我扶你，谢谢。事情总算有人解决了。是。面试呢？算了吧，应该被淘汰了。好像也是啊。不过没关系，留着新参赛，不怕没柴烧。说的没错。根先，你是不是还没有去买裤子吧？
谢谢大家看完这影片，喜欢的话记得留言、按赞、加分享。喜欢我们的影片的话，也欢迎来现场看我们演出。所以请大家持续关注我们。Thank you。
我们第一个组合是我们来自面白大丈夫里面的过敏原人。
我们是公民人，大家好。不好意思，我调一下麦克风。因为我们2个都比较高。真的是很开心，可以第一次来到2堆 Comedy 啊。对，你应该知道我们不是第一次来吧？哦，你是说2堆 Comedy 开幕的那一天，然后他们有邀请很多 YouTuber 来到底下，像是阿 D、